Hi everyone, it's Miss Miller, and today what I'd like to do is talk to you about building the body paragraph. And more specifically, today we're going to talk about the extended body paragraph. We're going to be deepening our analysis. Now, one of the common myths that most students have when approaching writing is that they feel like it's the most impossible task to achieve. And so today I just want to share a new approach to writing, and I also want to remind you of things that you already know, and just let you know that writing is something that requires plenty of practice. So today I might share this approach with you, but it's not until you actually are in the process of writing that you will become confident with your writing. So the more you write, the better you'll become. So let's start with some of the acronyms you may have been exposed to over your academic career. Now, keep in mind that although these are different acronyms, they really are all communicating the same information, just in different ways. So as a writer, you have to decide for yourself which one of these you most resonate with. Okay, so for the first one, the idea is that writing is as easy as pie, right? And so you have this idea of the point being your first letter of the acronym, and each of these letters stand for a sentence, and you have your point, your illustration or your information, and then you have your explanation. And you repeat that cycle 3-4 times until you've exhausted the subject or you've actually proven your point. And you want to build on each of the examples that you use or each of the illustrations. So as you can see, if you can get your topic sentence and your illustration and explain a couple times, then you just repeat the same cycle over again. Then we have what's called the hamburger method. You may have heard of it, where you've got the hamburger and you've got all this material inside the bun. You've got your topic sentence and you have your supporting sentence 1, 2, and 3. You may have heard of the term the Jane Schaefer method. The one thing that's missing on here is the concluding sentence, but this is very much like the pie. Same material, just a different way to communicate it. The topic sentence is just like your point. The concrete detail is similar to your illustration and information. Then your commentary is repeated twice, and you go back to your concrete detail, and you repeat that cycle again several times. In an extended body paragraph, you want to go or reach up to 4 if possible. For your concrete detail or your illustrations and information. The one thing that the Jane Schaefer model has is that it has what's called a concluding sentence. You should see a CD at the end of this. And I'm not, a CS. I'm not a big fan of the concluding sentence, only because I find then your essay becomes repetitive. But if you're used to it, then use it. Then use the concluding sentence at the end, but that's the Jane Schaefer model. Now, there was a point when I thought I was a genius and I said, oh my gosh, I've got my own acronym for writing, topic sentence, example, analysis. And then I looked online and someone had already coined the term. So I thought, oh my gosh, right? And of course, there's nothing new ever under the sun. But in this case, you will see, again, it's all aligned. It's the same as Jane Schaefer. It's the same as pie, the topic sentence, example, evidence, analysis, and again, you repeat that cycle or pattern 3 or 4 times. Some cases you only have to do it twice, depending on what task or what you're being asked to do before you're finished, as long as you prove your topic sentence. So you might be thinking, well, this feels really structured. And I feel really cramped. I don't like being told, well, I think the best thing, if you don't know what to do, is to have some tools in place to make sure you're putting the material in the right place. So this is the formulaic response, right? Or a formula response. And I liken it to a bicycle with training wheels. You'll see the back bike or tire has 2 training wheels supporting it. So it's like a 1-to-2 ratio. For the tire in the back, there's 2 training wheels, 1 on each side to sort of support it. Same thing with your response. And obviously, just like when you start to learn to ride a bike, we remove those training wheels, just like we do in your writing. Then you can find your own formula, your own way to structure your responses to prove your point that works for you. But while you're in the learning stage, while you are developing your confidence with writing, use these tools, the 1-2 ratio of the example, illustration, concrete detail, and having those 2 analysis statements to sort of back you up in the very beginning of your writing. So the different sources, again, to summarize, we have the pie, the Schaefer, the hamburger, the tea. They're all the same thing. Information, illustration, instances, data, facts, figures, graphs, concrete detail, examples, evidence, right? Any of those, as long as you utilize a source. Now, you're probably thinking the hard part is the analysis. We don't want a summary when we ask for an analysis. We want an analysis. Don't tell me what I already know. Tell me something new and insightful and thoughtful. So your analysis comes from your mind. What are you thinking? Walk us through that process. And so again, some of the terms that have been used, doesn't matter which one, just pick one that resonates most with you. There's the analysis, the examination, the commentary, the explanation, investigation, explication, interpretations. Same thing. You need to follow that formula in the beginning. Now, I want you to take a look at this image here, right? And you see this is what traffic looks like when there are no signals. So imagine you're writing with no transitions. It's a complete disaster, right? So the best thing to do is embed these transitions in your work to guide your reader through, to make sure that I can start at the beginning and get to the last sentence safely. And so you want to have, for your sources, before you include your source, you might just want to insert or embed these transitions to guide. It's not necessarily for you, it's for the reader, right? And then your analysis, again, you want to take some time to embed these terms into your work before you present your analysis. So you can press pause and go ahead and write these down. You can also add to the list for yourself, but this makes a huge difference, because if as a writer I'm looking at your paper and there are no transitions, it's going to take me forever to get through the response. But if you have transitions in there, just like if you have signals, I'm going to get through it rather quickly, and I'll be able to just go right through and follow your line of reasoning, hopefully, if that's present. So this is, again, what it looks like if we're using the T formula. You have your topic sentence, and you just, again, repeat the pattern 3 or 4 times. And you embed your transition. So you have your topic sentence, transition, example, transition. And then you have your analysis, and you want to double down on your analysis. Remember, we talked about the training wheel and the 2 sides. And then you don't have to do another topic sentence. You skip right over that, and you go right through the cycle again. You'll notice it's E, A, E, A. And here's what it looks like. So if you're looking at a paper, I can tell right away, based on the way they color-coded it, and it's aligned to the key that I have at the very top, that this person has 3 examples, and they have 3 analysis sections. And those analysis sections, you can see, are a little bit lengthier because that is composed of about 1 or 2 or more sentences. And then you can even see that this individual actually used the James Schaefer method, because at the very end there's that concluding sentence, and I can tell because that is a yellow highlight and the topic sentence is in green. But again, your teacher might ask for 4 examples in that case, and you're going to continue that cycle even longer. So here is what it looks like. This is a Julius Caesar response, a rhetorical response. This is an extended body paragraph with citations and transitions, and so it's a little bit easier to read. But essentially, if you were to color code this for topic sentence, examples, analysis, then as a reader, you could be about 10 feet away from the person who wrote it, and you could tell right away what they're missing if they color code this. You can say, oh, it looks like you're missing an example, or you just went on too long with your analysis. So it just makes for even great feedback for you as a writer. So the origins of evidence. Now, most of your evidence are going to come in the literature class from books, poems, short stories, right? Newspaper articles, and the like. However, if you're given like a generic prompt like what makes a great leader, you can draw from several different places. And so I like to call it the frisbee. I don't know, I just coined my own terms here, but you can draw from life. That could be a piece of evidence. You can go from an illustration or a picture. You can refer to something you've seen in a movie that helps you tell that point or example. You can go for something that you've read in a book, the news, or television. So those are the different sources that you can draw evidences from. But again, most of the time, it's going to come from your novel or your short story or your poem or your newspaper article or your speech and so on. So the analysis pathways, we're going to talk about the different pathways. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about the qualities that need to exist in an extended body paragraph. Your response needs to be cohesive. It needs to go together. It needs to be connected. There needs to be a logical line of reasoning. Your response should be thoughtful and authentic. So if you embody each of these characteristics, then you're going to avoid a summary. Let's take a look at some of the pathways that will help you reach an analysis. The first one I like to call is the Petal Formula. Remember the bike, right? We have the training wheel. Now the Petal Formula says that we're going to take the example plus the function, and whatever you get for that, that's your analysis. So in this case, you're saying, okay, my example would be the pedals. The purpose of the pedals would be to help you move the bicycle, right? Or navigate. And so that would be your analysis. If this were a literary text, the Petal Formula, if you use that, you would say, okay, let's say you pulled an example of imagery or figurative language. That would be your example. How or what is the purpose of that imagery? What is the function of that figurative language, that specific example in the text? And that would be your analysis. This one I like as well is called the bicycle effect. And in this case, you take your example, right? The pedal again, you see it's working. And you ask yourself, now what impact does it have on the work? Not only what purpose does it serve, but what impact does it have? And this is another pathway to reaching an analysis. Well, we see that, you are moving forward, and depending on the pedal, you could go faster or slower and all sorts of things, right? It can even go back and stop. So what is the purpose? And in this case, for the bicycle effect, what is the impact? What are the implications of it? I think the best way to discover that, another pathway, is the Strider dilemma. The Strider bike has no pedals. So the nicest way to do that is to take your text and take away that literary device. Remove the pedals. Remove that imagery from the work. And what happens when it's not there? How does the response, how does the text read? That could give you an analysis as well. So then there's the Velocipede model. And in this one, you can see there are different types of bikes. You've probably heard of the Saming Matter. This is my version of it. The bicycles, this is the very first bicycle, and then we know what it looks like today. So in your first to reach the analysis is, what new or unusual idea do I discover about this line or this section or the text as a whole as a result of my evidence? When you answer that question, that will help you achieve your analysis. Another way to achieve your analysis is, how does this piece of evidence alter or support the message of the reading. This too will help you achieve your analysis. What difference does knowledge of this piece of data make on the line, this section and or text as a whole? Again, it's a whole same matter, but it's applying to the bicycle method in hopes that you won't forget that. So there are different ways to achieve your analysis. So we talked about the different acronyms. We talked about the transitions. We talked about the different pathways for analysis. So now the most important part is to get in there and just start writing. Don't hesitate. Get something on paper, whatever it is, and each time you write, you should improve. But don't just disqualify yourself from the race by saying, I can't write. You can, even if it's one sentence, do it, right? That's better than nothing. And then we go from there. Then we can build on that. But please, when you write, give it your best shot. Put something on paper. Use the formula until you get really good. And then by the time you get to the next level, you'll remove those training wheels and structure your response in a way that is meaningful to you.